this session, we are going to discuss one of my favorite topics, and that is a trademark term of mine called regression to replacement cost, or I guess I should say a trademark phrase, regression to replacement cost. You're going to love this because this is a great way to really increase and juice up your returns from your real estate investment portfolio. Very few people understand this. The whole world calls this something else, but it's not exactly the same. There is a distinction. You know what they call it? They call it the A word. They call it appreciation. And I have talked about this extensively on my podcast in defining the differences between appreciation and regression to replacement cost. So what we want you to do here is buy on the dip and benefit from the recovery. Now, of course, everybody wants to do that. That's what market timing is all about. But you know what I think about that? I think that it's pretty hard to time appreciation. But one way you can really know where you are in terms of at least in individual property, maybe not the whole marketplace, but at least in individual property, you can get a really good idea what you're looking at in terms of the value of that property by what we're going to talk about in this very exciting lesson on regression to replacement cost. Okay, let's dive in. So our learning objectives, what will they be? Learn how to calculate the replacement cost of a property. In other words, what is replacement cost? Well, what does it cost to build it again? And what does it cost to buy that land? It's the construction cost. And this is something that insurance people talk a lot about. They talk about this concept of replacement cost. Okay? So learn how to determine the relationship of a property price to its replacement cost, because those are not the same. And we hope that they're not the same. When they're not the same and those two are out of sync as they are in some market cycles, you can really make a lot of money. Okay, a lot of people have done it, and we're going to teach you how to do that in this lesson today. So learn how to calculate the returns from a property regressing toward its replacement cost. In other words, when a piece of wood is worth what a piece of wood actually costs, right? And it doesn't just apply to wood, it applies to all these ingredients in a home or apartment complex or a commercial building or any type of real estate, improved real estate, because we are talking about the improvement, of course. So as we dive in, let's take a look. So here is a graph that illustrates the concept of market value versus replacement cost. And what you can see here is you can see that, the market goes in cycles, obviously, right? And we have these bubbles, and we have this sort of mean line, right? Because this line where it talks about the replacement cost, this is the value. This is the intrinsic value of the property. And of course, when things get frothy, when things get crazy, we see properties sell for much more than replacement cost. Now, one of the things that I've been pretty well known for teaching is what I call the Hartman Risk Evaluator. And what this tells you, and it relates to regression to replacement cost very significantly, because what it tells you to do is avoid markets with really high land values, part of the replacement cost, but much harder to value, and gravitate toward markets with low land values and high improvement values. Remember, whenever you buy an improved property, whenever you buy a house sitting on land, you're not just buying one thing, even though that's the way people refer to it. They'll say, well, I'm buying a house, right? But you're not just buying a house. You've got to dice it up into its two component parts. What are the major two components? There's the land, that's one component, and there's the improvement, the house sitting on the land. That's another component. Now, you could substitute that house for apartment building, office building, whatever you want, but it's the improvement versus the land, right? So when things get out of sync and they get crazy, you see properties, the two components together, when I say that, or real estate or whatever, just the way people casually refer to it, you see both components selling for much more than their replacement cost. And when things get really depressed and the contrarians are out there buying up real estate all they can get, when they get really depressed, things are selling below the replacement cost. Huge opportunity for investors, okay? So during housing booms, when building increases, when the price of new homes exceeded the cost of construction plus the land, then you see developers are encouraged to build. Well, of course they are, because they know that that margin, that difference of the two components being added up, the land and the improvement, that margin above that represents what? It represents the builder or the developer's profit. So they will build like crazy in those market cycles because they realize there's a lot of profit to get there. And when that reverses, when things are selling below construction cost during those price collapse period, basically you see construction screech to a halt. We certainly saw this in the last market cycle, and you see that in all the market cycles. Because why would a builder build if they had to sell what they're building below the cost of construction? Okay? And you can buy that. I mean, I'll give you an example. My company was selling properties nationwide in all the markets we liked in the ugliest part of the Great Recession, that last cycle we went through, which was really the worst economy in 7 decades. We were selling properties, quality properties. I mean, good houses, good single-family home investment properties, high-quality properties, for as low as, you ready? Wait for it, $25 a square foot, $30 a square foot, $35 a square foot, even $50 a square foot. That was a fantastic deal because it included the land as a free bonus and you were buying below the cost of construction. I mean, I can't tell you, we represented lots and lots and lots of clients and helped them build those portfolios. And now the regression to replacement cost has occurred. Is it appreciation or is it regression to replacement cost? Well, let's examine that just a little bit more, okay? So the first thing we've got to do to examine this is understand how to calculate the construction cost or the replacement cost. Those are kind of interchangeable, although, we have to include the land too, of a property, right? So calculating the replacement cost is about finding the relevant information and using internet resources to calculate the cost of rebuilding, of building that structure. This is exactly how an insurance company thinks. Because if the house burns down, if the apartment building burns down, they got to rebuild it, okay? And that's what they really look at. So you can just use a search engine. Doesn't have to be Google, okay? Could be Bing, could be any one of the search engines, and just type in building cost estimator or similar terms, okay? I'm telling you that because I want you to know how to find it yourself in case the website I'm going to mention isn't there someday, right? But one that I really like is called building-cost.net. So you go there, and we're going to go there in a moment, look at it together. The key inputs for calculating replacement cost are, things like number of corners, livable square footage, high class ratings or quality class ratings like A, B, or C class, heating and cooling, are there other buildings on the property, and then what is the geographic area? Because costs vary by area a lot, don't they? In business unfriendly environments, remember in the last lesson, I talked about California and maybe I mentioned New York, I can't remember. No, I mentioned California versus Texas. And in so doing, you look at, it's much less expensive to build a property, a home or an apartment complex in Texas than it is in California because of the business friendliness factor. So the geography really does matter when you're looking at this kind of stuff, okay? So let's check this out. Let's dive in together. You just go to the website I mentioned. You look at the little button there that says Start Calculator. And voila, it's amazing, right? Amazing. Look at these great resources. You can calculate, and you see it on this next page here, you can calculate the cost of building a house. And you can do it pretty darn accurately, okay? Now, of course, things may come up and, things may change and all kinds of stuff may happen. But here it breaks it all down for you. It really is an amazing resource. And you see in this example, the total cost is $115,000. You're going to have, $66,000 in material, $47,000 in labor, and then you got to have some equipment, and that's about $1,700 in that example. So there's your replacement cost, okay? Now, what if you could buy this property, this $115,000 replacement cost property, and you could get the land included, and what if you could buy it for $100,000 below the cost of replacement, below the cost of construction? What if you could buy it for $75,000? Pretty awesome opportunity. Now, if that property went up in value after you bought it, would you consider that appreciation, or would you consider it regression to replacement cost? I don't know, but let's take a look. So here you've got the replacement cost we've discussed. You've got the market value. And those two interact, they push against each other. Sometimes the market is going down and you have a situation where the cost to replace the property is stable, or maybe it's even going up. Okay, the cost of those materials could go up at the same time that the overall market is declining. That's certainly possible. So if you have limited new real estate development, if you have high demand, this can escalate the prices, without new supply coming into the market, like we talked about in the last lesson. So when the market value of a property is below replacement cost, there's a strong opportunity to make money, strong opportunity for gains. The key factor is whether there will be enough demand in the future to push prices upward. Now, let's examine these returns: regression to replacement cost versus appreciation. They're separate things, okay? Why are they separate things? Because appreciation, which the common person thinks of because they don't understand how to really break down this equation, that's when the whole marketplace goes up. That's when everything's going up in value, okay? That's when everything just moves up in a whole market area. But regression to replacement cost occurs when the market value of a specific property moves toward its replacement cost. So if you buy it for 20% below replacement cost, as an example, and then you're able to sell it for 100% of replacement cost, you made money. But I would argue that that is not necessarily, at least, it is not appreciation. Okay, it is simply regression to replacement cost. Okay, so that is an important thing to understand. Now, there's a badge action here, of course, and so let's talk about that. Okay, look up the replacement cost for a market. Pick any city you like around the country, okay, and determine what the purchase price, what purchase price would be, and what would the replacement cost would be for maybe 5 properties in that market. So all you have to do, for example, is you can go on any property website like Zillow, for example. We've talked a lot about that throughout the course. You can go on Zillow, for example, or many other websites. You can look up a property and you can see how many square feet is that property. You can go and you can calculate approximate replacement cost, and then you can calculate the cost per square foot of the property being listed or the recent sales. And then you have a real metric, something concrete that can help you determine the value of a property. So select 5 properties in your chosen market, enter the property information, calculate the replacement cost, and then simply upload your screenshot for your badge completion. All right, so that's regression to replacement cost. I know it's a mouthful. I've even stumbled on it a few times. Regression to replacement cost. Say that 10 times fast. It's a big deal. You're going to make a lot of money with that idea. We'll see you on the next lesson.